Okay, so we're gonna learn how to make a quick beat. I'm in Pro Tools, or I've launched Pro Tools, and I went to File and Create New to get the dashboard. I'm gonna call this Beat 1 for no other reason. I'm gonna make sure that my location is ending up on the desktop for my folder, 24-bit, 48K sample rate, and I'm gonna hit Create. Okay, and you can see quickly again that a folder called Beat1 shows up. I'm going to go to Track and New, and I'm going to create a stereo instrument, not MIDI, stereo instrument track. It's going to remain in ticks, and I'm going to call it Drums. We're going to make a 2-measure drum beat. Before we do that, though, we need to know what tempo our track is at, our song. And it is at 120 because most DAWs, if not all of them, default to 120 BPM. But what does that sound like? If I hit play, I don't hear anything. I need a reference. So I'm going to go up to Track and hit Create Click Track. Again, that is Track, and all the way down at the bottom, Create Click Track. And now when I press play, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, I hear that reference. That's too fast for what I want to do. So I'm going to come up to this 120. I have a couple ways I can do this. I can either highlight it, put in a tempo that I want, hit return, and that will change the tempo to 110. Or I can just click and drag in the direction I want to go. And you can see how the timeline, the measures are stretching out the lower I go because it takes longer to get somewhere. I'm going to make this 90 BPM. You don't have to, but I am. Now I'm going to insert an instrument on my drum track. I'm going to click in the first insert A, multi-channel plugin, go down to instrument. We're going to stick with expand just to keep things simple. Now that it's came up a while ago, didn't it? With the default, I'm going to go in and put in a drum set. And I would choose something from the top 20 here. You do not want to get into kicks and menus and stuff like that. So really the first 24, I would say. I'm going to choose, where am I? I have no idea what that is. Okay. I can close this now, and I'm going to bring up a new window, which is the MIDI editor. And just to make sure, if there is another track in here, you want to make sure that the pencil is on the track that you want to use. If it's on another track, that is the track that you'll hear. In this instance, I don't have an instrument on Inst 1. So, but if I change this to something else and go back to the MIDI editor, these are my drums, a little strange. And that's the bass that I just put in. So I want the drums. I'm going to go down to C1. I can't work with that. Let's try something else. Funky session set. It's going to sound like real drums, hopefully. I'm going to go up to Window and back to my MIDI editor. Now, there's no sounds up here in the third octave. The drums end, where do they end? At A2, okay? This is A, and it's in the second octave. But what we want is kick on C1, so the number 1, a snare drum on D, and a closed hi-hat on F sharp. I want you to zoom in to the point where you see your fractions, 1/1, 1/2, 1/3, 1/4. You should have your grid set to 16th notes. If it's not, if you don't see 4 squares per quarter note, then it is not. If you don't see your grid, you should click on this button that will show it. I want you to click on the pencil tool. And I want you to put a kick, a note on the 16th note on C1. I want you to put D, a snare drum on 2, kick on 3, snare on 4. And on that F sharp, I want you to go every other square, which is an 8th note pattern. Okay, now that I have a drum beat, I can mute my click track and be confident that it's on beat. Okay, my kick drums are very, very quiet, so I'm actually going to select them. I'm going to go back to my grabber tool. So I can either highlight them, but I can also click on C, and I'm going to wait for that. So I have a drum beat. I want to keep going and make a slightly different one for the second measure. So I put in my snares on 2 and 4. I'm going to add a couple extra kicks. And I put in some 16th note hi-hats at the end there. And I now want to raise up the volume or the velocity of my kicks. I'm going to select all my kicks. And I'm going to raise up these lollipops. I'm going to do the same thing with my snare. I really want to hear it. Here we go. So we have a basic drum beat. Now I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to bounce the mix so that I can submit it. And I want, if it says wave, I'm going to change it to MP3. I'm going to make sure that it's interleaved. I'm going to make sure that it's headed for the bounce files folder of my session. I'm going to make sure that it's offline. I'm going to hit bounce. I am going to hit OK. And there we go. And if I want to, and I do want to put this up on canvas, I am going to go into beat 1. I am going to look in my bounce files folder. I'm going to single click on beat 1, and I'm going to press the space bar. There we go.